What's up, guys? Today I want to talk a little bit about these rumors that are going around with the Saw franchise, Twisted Pictures, Lionsgate, and whether or not we're going to get the 11th film in September of 2025. Now, before we get into this, I want to say I don't want to make this a regular thing. There's just a lot of rumors going around with what they're anticipating, what they want for this movie, whether or not they're even going to make it, who's going to star in it, whether or not the studio itself is going to be sold to someone like Blumhouse or A24, and what is the absolute future of this franchise? Like, what are they working on? So yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, so we're just gonna have to jump right into it. First and foremost, I feel like the most important thing to talk about here is whether or not they're going to actually make this movie. I talked about this on the channel before, trying to break down all of the news that we had about the direction of the script, how everybody is happy with the script, or at least everybody who really wants to make the movie. But the holdup seems to be the producers, the owners of Twisted Pictures, and whether or not they want to sell the company to someone else or just continue to make their own stuff. It has been speculated that there is some time to put everything together, allowing for the production to continue and for the September release date to be hit, but everything would have to start coming together almost immediately. And even though the script seems to be done and ready to shoot, and everybody who's at least involved with the picture is excited to still do it, it's going to have to turn around really aggressively in the next coming months, probably having to be filmed or at least being set up and everything ready to film and filming throughout March and probably a little bit of April. The big thing here is that the Saw films aren't really CGI heavy. There is some here and there, but just in general, a lot of this is practical effects. So long as they can put it all together and film it in camera, then the editing process and cutting together the score and pretty much everything else that you have to do is at least doable in the time that they have allotted to themselves. The worst case scenario there being that they can release it in October instead of September, although given the success of Saw 10 and just the lead up, especially since you allow people to kind of discover the movie into the October months and it plays better in October just in general, I feel like going back to the if it's Halloween it must be Saw mentality where you're releasing it the last weekend of October or the second to last weekend of October, where you're allowing for the build-up into Halloween, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. September was a really good release date for the last film, and I feel like they have to continue that with any release for the future. The biggest rumor here that I want to talk about and get y'all's thoughts and opinions in the comments is apparently Blumhouse and A24 have been approached by Twisted Pictures about acquiring the entire studio and essentially acquiring the rights for any future Saw movie going forward. There's a couple of things about this that I love and a couple of things that I absolutely hate, and we're just going to have to discuss this in turn. First, I've seen so many people online give disdain or hatred, just throwing shade all over Blumhouse. There is just no sense of how much horror fans have really soured on this studio since what they did with the Exorcist movies, as well as the last couple of Halloween movies they did. I personally really like Kills and Ends, but I know the vast majority of major horror fans really did not appreciate or care for those movies. So you get this sense that people don't want to see the dumbed down, watered down version of Saw that Blumhouse can bring to the screens. I think the thing that's most exciting for me if you're talking about Blumhouse acquiring Twisted Pictures and thus getting the right to make more Saw films is that Jason Blum recently partnered Blumhouse with Atomic Monsters, which is James Wan's, kind of baby production company. And then you also have Jason Blum working pretty exclusively recently with Leigh Whannell. These two guys created the Saw franchise. It would be freaking phenomenal if they were to come back together and do something unique, original, and fun with the Saw brand. One of the things I've argued is I would love to see Blumhouse partner up with Leigh Whannell and James Wan for James Wan to produce a trilogy of Saw films that are written and directed by Leigh Whannell that either take place in the already established universe from the first 10 films, or maybe even they go the Halloween 18 route, where you're essentially stripping everything of its parts and just doing the basic bare minimum. Maybe the first 3 films in the series happened pretty much the point where Leigh Whannell and James Wan exited the franchise in the first place, and then you're going out of your way to reestablish the brand, do something different without Amanda or John or, the concept of Hoffman and everything. And we have a bit of an Elseworld story or an alternative universe like we do with the Halloween franchise. I'm not saying that's going to be the best alternative here, but I am saying that it would be interesting to have the creators of the franchise back in a very creative, forward-thinking role and doing something unique with it that stretches between not just one movie at a time like Twisted Pictures has done before, but you do something a little bit more akin to what Blumhouse has been doing recently in greenlighting 3 movies in a trilogy going forward and seeing how they do. Personally, as a Saw fan, I would hate to lose the canon, but the idea of getting 3 films guaranteed, that might be enough to sway me one way or the other, especially if Leigh Whannell is going to be a major creative force going forward, because outside of his Wolfman movie, he's pretty much hit the nail on the head with every attempt at a creative outlet that he's ever done. Saw, Insidious, Upgrade, The Invisible Man. Like, literally, this guy doesn't miss, and when he does, there has to be something else that went on with that Wolfman movie. The biggest con there, which I'm sure you've already guessed, is doing something completely different, rebooting the franchise as a whole, not only gets rid of the script for Saw 11, which, from what we've heard, everybody who's creatively involved with it is happy with that direction and wants to see that movie made, so that would be kind of a bummer. Also would be getting rid of Tobin Bell, which he's the face of the franchise. It would be really hard for Leigh Whannell and James Wan to reboot the entire franchise and still use him. Not impossible, but it would also, he died in 3. That's the most logical jumping off point to do something completely different with the legacy of John Kramer's Jigsaw character from those first 3 movies and then doing something unique and original. But you're kind of getting rid of the canon from 4 all the way through 10, and you don't do something with 11. Seems like a bit of a waste, especially when Tobin Bell is still alive, kicking, and wants to be a part of the franchise. He's the face of it. Getting rid of him would be a huge detriment and something I would see them doing, but maybe begrudgingly. All that being said about Blumhouse, I don't see any benefit for A24 getting the Saw franchise. There were and there has been a lot of discussion or rumors surrounding the idea of doing a Saw television show. If you're interested, you can check out Phantom Limbs by Jason Jenkins. He is a writer for Bloody Disgusting. This is a fantastic book where he kind of chronicles various creative things that just didn't happen for a lot of horror franchises. Certainly worth picking up. Not even an endorsement. I mean, I talk to him every now and then. Really cool guy. Fantastic book if you like horror stuff. Anyway, even though that book details at least a concept for a Saw television show that was built around the time that Saw 6 was bombing in the box office, and they had to switch course with Saw 7 and 8 to one movie, and then just that concept of their television show didn't really make sense anymore. I'm not going to spoil that for you. That's kind of beyond the point here. There were rumors just a couple of years ago about the producers of Twisted Pictures wanted to do something with the Saw franchise, not just movies and video games and what they've done before, but also jump into the idea of the small screen, something for streaming services that takes place in the Saw universe. And recently we've heard that there was at least a writer's room put together for that kind of concept, but it didn't come together and everything was scrapped. That being said, if A24 were to take advantage of the Saw franchise, I can imagine them doing that. Although they did get the rights for Friday the 13th, and that show has yet to materialize or do anything of note. So yeah, it's possible that A24 might be the best direction for a Saw television show, but their track record just doesn't prove that they can do it to me. Maybe I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. More than anything about this particular update video, I want to get everyone's thoughts and opinions about Saw 11 potentially getting canceled, or maybe even moving to October if they just get everything together at the very last minute. Personally, I feel like we need to at least see Saw 11. I've been arguing for years now that I would love to see them do something like a back-to-back filmmaking for 11 and 12 or something. Just kind of build the story as much as possible. Stop doing it one film at a time, especially with how consistently popular these movies are, and build a story around maybe, this next trilogy that started in 10 and now goes to 11 and 12. And then you've kind of ended everything you wanted to tell with that story. Then maybe you can start thinking about selling it and doing something else with the franchise, like a television show, a reboot, comic books, novels, freaking video games, whatever they really want to do. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And considering the lack of update or any real indication that the movie's even started filming yet or is going to start filming anytime soon, even if it's still just a rumor, I feel like there's less and less of a chance that this movie ends up getting made. That being said, there's a lot of people who are involved with this film who do think it's going to get made, so I can't tell you one way or the other. It's still on the schedule. If it is going to be delayed or canceled or whatever it is, we're probably not going to know until March or April of this year. So we do have some time to wait and see what's going to happen. Maybe we'll have a better idea about this during CinemaCon this year. But again, that's just like a couple of months away. Anyway, hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.